This is Shula Manohorin, and I'm traveling the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, from the city of Hebron back to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, a 19 miles drive to see and film the truth about the West Bank and the Jewish settlement. The term settlement usually refers to the towns, tiny towns and villages the Jews have established in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip since Israel captured the area in the Six-Day War of 1967 in a self-defensive war against 5 invading Arab armies trying to destroy the tiny Jewish state that were at that time without the so-called disputed territory, without the West Bank, without Gaza, and without Eastern Jerusalem. In many cases, the settlements are in the same area which flourishing Jewish communities have lived for thousands of years, and to the Jewish kingdom which existed till 70 AD for 1,100 years from biblical times. I'm living in Hebron, the first capital of the Jewish people under King David, where approximately 600 Jews now live in the city and another live in Kiryat Arba, which is attached really to the city of Hebron. The city was the first parcel of land purchased by the Jewish people with the forefather Abraham. They purchased and paid for it in the promised land. And the city has a great religious significance and is a place where Jews lived for centuries before the massacre of 1929 by local Arabs. And finally, the Jews resettled in 1968 after liberating the West Bank and East Jerusalem and settling in Hebron in 1968. For 50 years, I've heard many accusations and condemnation of the Jewish settlement, which are really small Jewish community built in the West Bank. And the main accusation is that the settlements are the main obstacle to peace deal with the Palestinians. For 50 years, the United Nations, Europe, Arab and Muslim country, and the last 8 years of President Obama accused Israel repeatedly of building every year many new settlements in the West Bank on most of the area called the West Bank to sabotage any possibility of creating a new Palestinian state. And therefore, they insist that before any peace negotiation, even negotiating for peace, Israel must stop building settlement. Settlement, again, Jewish community with kindergartens and schools and civilian and universities, people that are trying to really live in their ancestral land. According to the news, you will think it's some nuclear site, it's a military base. No, it's not. It's a peaceful little Jewish communities, like a little tiny Kansas City, a little tiny Chicago, a really tiny. Since I am from the Show Me State, I decided to visit the West Bank, literally, driving through the West Bank to see for myself what is the truth. And to my surprise, all those accusations about the Jewish settlement were fake news. In reality, as you can see for yourself while I film it, it's not censored, it's not cut. I film it to see what is really going on the ground. The truth is, Israel is a tiny, narrow country with 8,000 square miles, the size of New Jersey, the 5th smallest state in the United States of America. And the land controlled by the State of Israel, including the West Bank, the disputed territory, is not much larger than the state of New Jersey. It's a very tiny area. And without the disputed territory, it's 9 miles narrow, next to Kfar Saba. The West Bank is only 2,183 square miles. And most of that area that is disputed is empty. 60% of the West Bank, if you travel and you can see on the film now I'm traveling, is empty. It's unpopulated by people. It's deserted with no one. No Jews, no Palestinian, no villages, no settlement, no purple people, no any kind. 39% of the West Bank is populated by 96%. The majority of the Palestinians live there. With 1.5 million Palestinians living under the direct and total control of the civil administration of the Palestinian Authority led by the president. So if you take the 39% while plus the 1.7% of the Jewish settlement together, it's around 40% populated area. 60% is empty, and more Palestinian and more Jewish cities can be there. So what about the Jewish settlement? After 50 years of Israeli control of the West Bank, 50 years of Judea Samaria, the Jewish ancestral land where our forefathers Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and King David and King Saul and other kings walked and lived and laid, Jewish settlement exists only in less than 2% of the West Bank, 1.7% to be accurate, which is only 40 square miles, a little neighborhood. And only this 40 square miles is populated by Jews. But the rest of the 2,000 is populated mostly by the Palestinian, and the rest is empty. There are only 130 Jewish settlement communities with around 400,000 Jews located in less than 2%, and in many cases the settlements are in the same area which flourishing Jewish communities have lived for thousands of years in the state of Judea and Samaria. And Israel 1,100 long Jewish kingdom. Till 1967, there was no one Jewish settlement in the West Bank, which was ruled by the Jordanian Arabs, and still 5 Arab countries, including Jordan, attacked Israel viciously, which was without then the West Bank or East Jerusalem, trying to destroy this little tiny thing without the disputed territory. Though the media in Israel detractor, including Obama and Kerry at the time, have falsely suggested that Israel has been building settlements for years, when not a single Jewish settlement was approved by the Israeli government for 25 years, until March 30 of 2017, when a new settlement was established instead of another one that was supposed to be dismantled according to a decision by the Israeli Supreme Court. Jewish settlements are not an obstacle to peace. All the houses and school and kindergarten were built only within the boundaries of the settlement for 25 years. It's going upward, not outward. You don't need to. They are 60% empty. You don't need to steal or occupy or take or undermine anybody. They don't even see each other. The history of the Jewish settlement is from 1948 till 1967. The entire West Bank and East Jerusalem was empty of any Jews or Jewish settlements and was under the control of the Arab Jordanians. But still they were firing into West Jerusalem and attacking Israel in 1967 to try to destroy Israel within 5 miles. Historically, there was never a Palestinian state or Arab or Muslim state called Palestine in the West Bank, only a Jewish state. Under the Jordanian Arab occupation of the West Bank for 19 years, a Palestinian state was not established, and the PLO that was established in 1964 by Arafat, the most notorious terrorist, its objective during the Jordanian rule of the West Bank and East Jerusalem was not to establish a Palestinian state. Nobody thought about it until Israel was able to be there. The main objective was to destroy the tiny Jewish state, 9 miles wide. Their purpose was to liberate all Israel, liberate and conquer and throw the Jews to the Bahar, to the sea, rather than establish another Arab state, the 22 Arab state, which was called to call it a Palestinian state in the West Bank alongside the Jewish state. Following Israel's resounding defeat of the invading 5 Arab army in the 6-Day War in 1967, strategic concern led both of Israel's major political party, the Labour and the Likud party, was in unity in Israel to support and establish settlement at various times. The first settlement were built by center-left Labour government from 1968 to 1967, with the explicit objective is to secure a Jewish majority in key strategic regions of the West Bank, such as Tel Aviv, Jerusalem corridor, that were the scene of heavy fighting in the Arab-Israeli War in 1948, when Israeli forces were defeated by the Jordanian army, which took over the West Bank and East Jerusalem with all the holy Jewish sites. In 1968, only 5 very tiny settlement existed behind the Green Line until Menachem Begin was elected Prime Minister of Israel in 1967. And just before 1977 election, 1,900 Jews only lived in tiny 38 settlements. Many Jews moved to the West Bank primarily for economic reasons, housing shortages in places such as Bnei Brak and Jerusalem. When Arab-Israeli peace talks began in the late 1991, which led to the Oslo Agreement between the Rabin government and the Palestinians, more than 80% of the West Bank had nothing, no settlement, no people. But still, Arafat rejected any offer of peace deal of a Palestinian state. He wants everything, the destruction still of the Jewish state. Currently, more than 60% of the Israelis living in the West Bank live in just 5 settlement blocks: Ma'ale Adumim, Modi'in, Telt, Ariel, Gush Etzion, Givat Ze'evi, which all lie within only a few miles of the 1949 Armistice line, often inaccurately referred to as the 1967 border, otherwise known as the Green Line. This settlement block could be brought within the Israeli border so as to retain an Arab population from the West Bank of less than 50,000. It is inconceivable that Israel would evacuate such large city, but they are really on the separation line between both. There were so many myths that are connected to the Jewish settlement. One is that through the media in Israel, detractors have falsely suggested Israel has been building settlement for years, even though I just mentioned it and you can check it to yourself. For 25 years, there was no one Jewish settlement. It's only building upward, not outward. Another myth was another charge is the settlements are illegal, even though according to international law, it's not. According to Eugene Rosto, a former undersecretary of State for the Political Affairs in the Johnson administration, Resolution 242 gave Israel a legal right to be in the West Bank. The resolution allowed Israel to administrate the territory it won in 1967 until a just and lasting peace in the Middle East is achieved. Rosto wrote in the New Republic long time already ago. During the debate on the resolution, he added, Speaker after speaker made it clear that Israel was not to be forced back to the fragile and invulnerable Armistice ceasefire line that they violated themselves, the Arabs and the Jordanians, repeatedly. Another myth is that settlements are obstacle to peace, and we can see till now prove again and again that Israel willing to dismantle settlement. During the Camp David Accord with Egypt, Israel removed all the Yamit where my brother used to live, and we gave Old Sinai, which is 2.5 times the size of Israel, for peace agreement. And in addition to that, so we remove all the settlement in 1982 in the Yamit area next to Gaza. And then in August 2005, Israel evacuated all the settlement in the Gaza Strip and 4 in the West Bank under the disengagement plan initiated by Prime Minister Sharon unilaterally in order to have peace. This was a dramatic shift in policy by a man considered one of the fathers of the settlement movement. Sharon has also said that Israel will not keep all the settlement in the West Bank. We will willing again and again. And what we got, 15,000 Katyushas since then, is being fired by Hamas into Israel, into the airport, in all over Israel. For what? Because we withdrew every person, every settlement, we destroy our own cities, we destroy our own livelihood for peace. And we got several war instead. Finally, another myth is that the suggestion that Jews are not allowed to live somewhere. It is a racist contention that it is better for peace if the West Bank will be free of Jews. The implication of many settlement critics is that it would be better for peace if the West Bank were Judean free, Jews free. It would certainly be called racist if Jews were barred from living in New York, Paris, or London. Barring them from living in the West Bank, the cradle of Jewish civilization, would be no less objectionable. This is Shula Romano Horin, and this is the truth.